Okay. I actually wasn't expecting to have to make this kind of video. I originally made that Street Fighter 5 video because people asked me. Sometimes people just ask what kind of games I like, why I liked certain games, why I played other kind of games. But apparently, some people got confused for some reason, even though I said it was a general idea. People didn't understand what I was talking about. And, I alluded to other videos I've made, so I think you could have just watched those. But okay, let's talk about what I was trying to get at, why I don't like Street Fighter 5. Again, this is a general idea, but I guess I'm going to give a general idea in a slower kind of way. And again, like I said, this is not that I don't like 3D games. I think 3D games are fine. I think Soul Calibur fine. I think Tekken's fine. I think Virtual Fighter's fine. I think Dead or Alive is actually fine. And I jack off to Dead or Alive, or I used to. So it's a double fine. And I'm not saying any of these games don't take skill. They do take skill. And I feel like when I got to talk about this, because people are like, oh, who's Clayton? Because there's so many like new people, right? So I got to talk about myself a little bit, like who am I? Again, this isn't even about what kind of game takes skill, because let's look at the games that I'm known for. Like say maybe Guilty Gear was like known as like a skill-based game, kind of like well, again, a lot of games take skill, but they're an intricate game. Let's say the intricate game, which even that might be misleading, right? And I'll get into this. Let's look at a game like, say, Karnal's Revenge. I've had the Japanese tell me I'm the best in the world at that game before. They used to post matches of me all the time. I've done video combos in real matches. You know what I mean? Is Karnal's Revenge a skill-based game? It is, but again, I'll admit, Karnal's Revenge is a game that I've said many times before when people ask me about it. It's a game that runs a very fine line between being completely scrub-a-dub, and deceptively skillful. Well, what about say like Alpha One? A lot of people know me for Alpha One, all the stuff I did in that game, playing Japanese again online and whatever, all this crap, right? Is Alpha One's kind of a clusterfuck game, because he's super turbo. Any kind of game, a lot of people probably only know me for combo videos nowadays, but you know what I mean? I used to win tournaments back in the day as well. So anyway, but this isn't about my opinion about Street Fighter 5 is not, in that video, is not what is skillful. It's not what is, it's not that I don't like 3D games. I was just giving a generalized statement. But because there are so many comments about it, we can actually talk about, and I didn't know this was real, but some people are pretty fake. I didn't realize that there was a fake OG kind of movement. I didn't, some people say like, oh, people are like fake OGs. And I guess they really do exist because people are talking about frame data and stuff like that. And like, oh, Clayton's trying to say that frame data only existed in Street Fighter 5. That's not at all what I was saying. I mean, and people like Street Fighter 4 had frame data. The fact that you would even say that lets me know that you're a fucking retard, okay? People have known about frame data since Street Fighter 2. I've told this story before. I'm OG enough that I remember reading about Mike Watson before I could even pop my first boner in, game magazines. You know what I mean? And do you know what I mean? Like, I existed when people actually played Street Fighter 2 in the arcades. My grandma used to take me as a kid. I was reading about guys like Mike Watson and all these people in magazines. And God, and I've said this before, one of the last tournaments I entered ever, Street Fighter, it was me and Mike Watson in the finals for Alpha, right? You know what I mean? And I wish we could have got to play the finals. And I've said this before, I haven't told them this before. I wish, Mike Watson, like, again, when I was reading about guys like APOC and Mike Watson, all this kind of stuff, I just wished I could have played those guys, right? And, I went on to eventually meet guys like Jason and everything like that. And I was so nervous to play them at first because I didn't even know I could enter tournaments at that time. I was, again, I think it's like one of those things like, I probably look younger than I am right now. And I looked older than I was when I was a kid just because I was just so sick and, you know, life stuff. But, you know, I remember playing Street Fighter 2, okay? Frame data did exist back then too. You know what I mean? And I went off on a tangent here, but I remember, I always wish I could have played Mike Watson and all these other guys when I was actually really into games and all that kind of stuff. But again, I've told the story before. Once I actually got into tournaments, immediately I saw that I didn't like tournaments, and it just killed all the fun of video games for me. And I only kept entering because I was still winning, on and off. And I won the last tournament I won. I was like, this is just, I don't like this. And with health, it was just too much. But whatever the case, frame data existed back in Street Fighter 2, okay? Frame data exists in every game, okay? That's not what I was saying. Remember when Championship first came out? If you fucking do and actually are legit OG, what I mean? People were like, wow, you can actually reversal the first frame to now do, reversals and invincible moves. And we always knew that there were frames of something, but it wasn't relevant because that's not how you talked about video games back then, okay? And some people have tried to make the argument that, well, had people had MOOCs and, gamist guides or whatever the fuck they're called, or frame data on the internet, people would have talked about games like that now too. And that's complete bullshit because people still play Super Turbo in tournaments and they don't talk about the game in frame data. I remember years ago, and this gets into the years and years ago, people were trying to get into this. People want to be really anal, and this goes into the other vlogs I've talked about. People think being a nerd makes you special and it makes you being good at a game. So they try to be really anal about how they talk about things. Like they want games to be a math problem. And there started being this backlash that you shouldn't use the word priority in video games. You should actually say it's this move's hitbox and hurtbox and the frames of the move, how fast it is, and the frames of its recovery versus this move's hitbox, its hurtbox, and the frames of its recovery, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, don't even, why the fuck are you guys even talking about a video game like this? No one talks about video games like this. This is the only time you would ever like actually want to talk about like hitboxes and hurtboxes like that is in like a very specific situation with this move versus this move where it is fucking relevant. Or if there's like a move with like a straight hitbox. I've said this before, for all these combo videos that I've made for games, all these crazy shit that I've found throughout the years, I don't look at frame data when I do it. The only time I have ever looked at frame data is as a crutch if you absolutely need to, because you cannot be truly creative that way. Because if you just look at frame data, look at all the stuff that I've done that people have tried to say isn't even humanly possible, okay? So that's that's getting into another story, right? But anyway, so thinking about that, people think that, oh, if frame data and all this stuff, if people knew everything back then, we would have talked like that. No, we wouldn't have, because it's just not relevant to how the game is played. If someone's mashing on duck short with Ryu, you know what I mean, and you randomly stuff an attack, you wouldn't be like, oh man, Ryu's duck short is this many frames, and the hurtbox is this, and its hitbox was like this, so it beat this character's hitbox that was like this, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, dude, no, we would just say that it has good priority, dude. You don't need to be super anal about a video game like that back then because it's not how the game was played. Super Turbo is still played. You don't hear people going like, oh, this move's hitbox is this and this move's hurtbox is this, blah, 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 because generally speaking, it's not how the game is played. You're not like, this move is plus this move is plus this, blah, 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 because it exists, but it's not how the game is played. It's not relevant, okay? Does that make sense? So when I was talking about 3D games, and again, this is nothing that this game is not skillful. This game is not good. Whatever. It has nothing to do with this. It's just saying, if we were to think about, there's never been a more contrived, predetermined game than Street Fighter 5. Okay? That's why I said, like, little Jimmy down the street can do just as hard a combo as you. Okay? This goes back into, like, again, one of the problems in games in general, and again, games are evolving into this, and Street Fighter 5 is now the cumulation or whatever, again, my English sucks, of games, because Street Fighter is the most important fighting game there is, okay? Even if it's not the best fighting game. All the Street Fighter games in the series in the first place have not always been the best fighting game, but Street Fighter is the most important game. Okay, does that make sense? So Street Fighter 5 is the most important, like, visualize or what you can compare this to. Again, I've talked about this, the whole wait your turn and all these fucking memes that people talk about. It's destroyed video games, right? Wait your turn. Your turn is when you pick a character, okay? Little Jimmy can now do the most hardest combo in the game because they want everyone to be able to be the star quarterback of the game because they don't want execution to be part of the game. You have people talking about this combo's a just frame, this combo's a just frame. What's a fucking just frame anymore, okay? Do you know what I mean? Like, remember when reversals actually took skill and you couldn't just mash them out? Yet, if you were to look at the frame data, I'm sure it would tell you it's just as many frames, probably, right? Besides when you drop frames, you know, in old games because of speed, whatever. But again, I'm generalizing here. I mean, how many people, how many fucking combos has Jimmy done in Street Fighter 5 to prove he's as good as you? But Jimmy probably can't even duck forward into Super Fireball with Ryu. Okay? So execution even now is misleading. But anyway, so the 3D argument was, and even if we talk about just the word just frame, where does just frame come from? The first use of just frames, to my knowledge, I've never heard anyone talk about just frames before Tekken. I don't remember when the first Virtual Fighter came out. There could have been moves that were called just frames back then. Maybe Akira's Stun Palm, right? Was that considered a just frame back then? I'm not sure. Again, it's not that frames never existed. It's just that people don't talk like that about games. But anyway, so the idea of, and you know, a 3D game, you know what I mean? The way that you poke, the way that it's very important to know what move is punishable here, what move is, you know, plus this, what move is minus this. My move is plus this, your move is minus this. I know there's fucking sidestepping. The fact that you have to even like bring it up shows that you have no concept of what I'm even talking about, right? So 3D games, if we're to think about plus and minus this, it's more important knowing these moves. It's more important to know what was punishable here and there because it's the way the game works. There's nothing, no, there's no, I'm not trying to be subjective about what is good or what is bad. I'm just saying how the game, a very general idea of a common sort of concept of like, you know, more 3D fighters, right? The frame data is more important in these sort of situations. You know, you're trying to open the opponent up. You're frame trapping more in this sort of situation. You're going for your counter hit, maybe launcher, whatever the case, right? Of course, Street Fighter has evolved. There is no doubt that Street Fighter has evolved. Has it evolved for the better? I would say no. But that wasn't exactly what I was trying to get into. So we have a game like Street Fighter 5, where so many moves were made with such a specific purpose. And every time you hear an announcer, they're like, this is plus this is minus this. You're going for the frame trap counter hit setup, you know what I mean? So instead of a 3D game it being a launcher, you're hitting your counter hit medium into whatever, into V trigger setup, whatever the fuck you're doing, okay? So frame data, of course, it's been talked about in other games. Of course, in Street Fighter 4, you had some moves that, you know, were probably just put in the game just for like a counter. Say a guy's duck hard punch. You know what I mean? A lot of kind of frame trap setups with that, right? But again, we have a game like Street Fighter 5 that doesn't even have up close normals. You know what I mean? So all these moves were just designed with such a specific purpose. You have people getting horny and their mind is blown when they see that you can actually move, that you can do a move as a media attack or to hit in later frames, and that allows you to be at more of an advantage. When it's like, dude, and they're like, I can't believe the frame data didn't tell me this. Like, dude, this reminds me of back when Street Fighter 4 came out. It was like front page news on some website that you could reversal to not take block damage when you could have died. It was just like, wow, dude, like, is that fucking front page news? Like, fuck Jimmy. Jimmy wrote that fucking article. Um, so the point is, it's the most convoluted, contrived Street Fighter there is, and also a lot of basic concepts of Street Fighter. Of course, it's a Street Fighter game. Of course, there are fireballs, there are dragon punches, right? And these have now become common concepts of every fighting game. More, you get what I'm saying, right? But let's like look at a game like Street Fighter 5. So say we're trying to ease a 3D player into playing a Street Fighter game. We know 3D players like this type of neutral, let's say, you know what I mean? We can't have them sidestep because it's Street Fighter. We're trying to ease them into the idea of Street Fighter. We know a lot of people, even nowadays, that like Street Fighter complain about fucking dragon punches, which is absolute nonsense. It's your fucking anti-air move. It's supposed to beat your jump and attack, okay? My computer shut off for a second. It's supposed to beat your jump and attack. It's supposed to be invincible. This is too good. And like, okay, well, and like, imagine like the little shy Japanese guy. Well, if it can't be invincible, can it? You know, I mean, if it's invincible, well, at least maybe we can make it so you're punished and you get hurt or something like really badly. And you got this fucking nerd Jimmy is like, no, no. Not only when I counter hit you, do you need to have the most punishable move in the game, it's also not supposed to be invincible. And it's like, but Jimmy, it's a fucking dragon punch. And Jimmy's like, no, and I'm gonna fucking tell my mom if you don't make it like this. And you're like, okay, Jimmy. You're like, okay, Jimmy, we'll make the game like this for you. Okay? And now there's millions of Jimmys that complain that have never actually won a tournament or ever done anything. And Street Fighter 2 is still more popular than any other game that's ever been there, okay? And Street Fighter 2 had these common concepts. But okay, of course, games do have to evolve. Everything has to evolve. But the problem is a lot of games nowadays are just one step forward, two steps back, okay? So what I'm saying is, so you try to ease a 3D player into a game like Street Fighter. Well, a lot of people don't like fireballs and dragon punches, so let's make it so you don't even take real block damage anymore. You know what I mean? You can't get chipped out as easily. And again, this isn't only Street Fighter. But again, oh, the 3D player can't sidestep, so they're going to want to jump more. So we don't want there to actually be invincible dragon punches. And what if they're like trying to do all these frame traps and everything like that, but then you can dragon punch out of it. And you can't really do that because that sort of concept doesn't really exist in 3D games. So let's make this all weaker because we still want to get a crowd. Of course, you want to introduce more people. We want to get more people to play fighting games, but we want to destroy what is common concepts of Street Fighter. Do you get what I'm trying to say? It's still Street Fighter, but it's not a real Street Fighter. Do you get what I'm saying? And I just don't like it. Is it a terrible game? Objectively speaking, no. Subjectively, do I think it's a terrible game? I don't know if subjectively I think it's a terrible game, but do I think it's a shitty game? Yes, I do. Okay. So, and I don't know how anyone can deny that. And this is like the fake OG thing because people didn't talk about games like this back then. You don't talk about moves, this is plus, this is blah, blah. That's just not how you talked. And if you're trying to act like that's how we talked, you're stupid. That's just not how we talk. We knew frames existed, but this isn't how we talked about video games, okay? Because it's not relevant. Just like people are trying to make, oh, you need to talk things about hurt boxes and this, blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, we can just use the word priority. We don't have to be super anal about it. Come on, Jimmy. Jimmy, don't fucking invite Jimmy to the party, okay? I know, Jimmy, okay? Just call it priority. It's like, well, actually, it's the hitbox and the hurt box and this, and it's the frame data of this. And it's like, I could just say that Ryu's Duck Short has a lot of priority, and it's good in footsies and neutral kind of this kind of way, you know what I mean? And Jimmy's like, well, I'm going to tell my mom if you don't. And I'm going to fucking tell the teacher, and fuck you. And I'm going to get you banned from school and blah, blah, blah. So I don't know why people can't understand this. I'm getting the argument that if we had nukes back then, that's how people would talk. No, because that's not how the game works, okay? Again, and I've said this before, this is nothing about what is skill-based. Of course, Street Fighter 5 takes skill. Lots of games take skill, okay? So it's nothing, Jimmy, fucking calm your tits, okay? All you fucking, I actually saw my videos got posted on Reddit and 4chan, and I was confused because it was just so sad. Like, people, I guess they don't really remember me from the Street Fighter stuff, but in those days, and it's like, well, I mean, They're like, Clay must not know it. Someone tries to say Clay doesn't only know for Dragon Ball. It's like, dude, I quit tournaments while I was still winning. You know what I mean? I was entering tournaments for fun when I was sick as fuck, and I still remember doing pretty well in a lot of tournaments. You know what I mean? So I don't know what this Clayton doesn't know what he's talking about. We don't even know who Clayton is. It's like, well, one of the reasons I don't care about little fucking Jimmy's complaining about games all the time. It's one of the reasons I quit. So sorry, Jimmy. Sorry to burst your bubble. You tried to take a time machine and went back in time and tried to say how these games were kind of played. And that's not how they work, dude. Not sure what to tell you. Not saying your new game's bad. Saying I don't like it. Apparently you don't like me either, so I don't know why you're butthurt that I don't like your game. I'm just calling a spade, okay? Again, anyway. That was a long video. I don't know if people know what I'm talking about. I've made lots of videos about this whole, wait your turn and how the fuck games are designed nowadays, and it's fucking terrible, dude. You know what I mean? But yeah, I didn't want to respond to these like hundreds of comments or whatever. I know why didn't I get 100 comments? I think I got like actually how many was on Reddit? There was a lot, and then there was like people on 4chan and I guess I don't know. I got a lot of comments. So anyway, the end.